All right, so for your warm up, you have to decide which piece of evidence that we've covered so far do you feel is more valuable in the court of law. Explain thoroughly. So, for example, we covered hair, fingerprints, digital evidence. So that was the text messages, the timeline stories, all of that. Polygraph data, witness slash person of interest statements, or blood evidence. So you're going to explain which one do you feel is more valuable if you had to go to court, and you have to explain that thoroughly. Then after you do that, you have to um we went into 1.1.3. So like some people had more information questions about step 4, so I went back over that. But for the most part, it was just about the step 7 that I told you to skip until today. So that was to design an Splatter experiment. So what you have to do is you have to open up this document, and that is actually a Word document. So what you would do is you would open up that Word document, and it says identify the problem or question, predict the solution, hypothesis, independent, dependent variable. It talks about designing an experiment that you don't have to do and all of this other stuff. So what has already been done for you? So if you go back into Canvas or go back to that document, you'll see that it's some links down here. It says PBS 114 blood evidence experimental results, and it has spatter image. So when you click on these things, they open up and they look like this. So as you can see, the information is already there for you. So it has what the problem is. It has the prediction. It has the independent and dependent variable for you. It already designed the experiment. So you're just filling in based off of this information, your document in that Word document. So that's all you're doing. And it also even provided image for you. Now I will say within that document on the Word program, you do have to do some things, like you do have to graph it. You do have to give an analysis, your written analysis, and you have to kind of give a conclusion and a summary of information. But all of this is based off of what was already done for you. So you already have all of the lab stuff. It even broke it down to what the problem is. It gave you a hypothesis. It gave you your variables and all of that information. It gave you the data that was collected. It gave you your materials, your procedure, and everything. So you're just filling it in as if you had already done it because it was done for you. You're just filling in the analysis part of it. So that's the graphs and that's the analysis, your written analysis, and you're filling in that conclusion piece and the summary of the paragraph. But like I said, you already have access to all of the information you need because it's in this document that is provided in your Canvas. So in these two documents, this is all you need in order for you to fill out your form. So then once you fill out that form, which should already be done, you can just add it to your notes portion of what you're turning in for this week and just attach your electronic case file link in there as well, because you did have to update your case information for this particular lesson. And that's all you're doing. So for this week's case report updates, remember I told you you had to title a new section of your case report blood evidence. And under blood evidence, you had 3 different subsections. So you had the Kastle-Meyer test. And if you don't remember what the Kastle-Meyer test information was, it was that announcement information that was for Tuesday and Wednesday since I wasn't here. And this is what it looks like. So when you I can zoom in. So it says Kastle-Meyer blood test results. So the way this works is you're trying to figure out if there's even blood at the scene, like if that was even blood. Remember, she was in a lab, so it's many things that could have been red or that can look like blood that wasn't necessarily blood. So for a Kastle-Meyer test, you always have a positive and a negative control. The positive control should always test positive for being that substance, which in this case is blood. So you would test a form of blood and it would show you like, well, this is what it would look like if it was a positive control. A negative control would be something you know wouldn't test positive for blood. So that would be like water, juice, or something like that. So if you look at these results, so you have the positive control, which we said is blood. You have the negative control, which looks kind of a yellowish, greenish color. That would be something negative like water. And then you have 2 scene samples. So this first one came from the edge of the table. So if you remember when we looked at the body and all of that other stuff, it was some blood um, on the edge of the table when we viewed our crime scene, and there were also some blood on the floor. Well, there was also some um, substances on the table in the blood, rather. But now that we have these results, we know that they were indeed blood, because if you look at the sample from the edge of the table and look at the sample from the floor, it pretty much matches up with the positive control. So at this point, we can say that those were indeed blood samples that we found. So then also on that case report, you had to do the blood type comparison. So that was step 11. Um, so yeah, we did that when we did the is it blood part, and you had to go through that information. You did the blood type comparison. So remember we talked about like when we looked at the PowerPoint and all that other stuff and who had what blood type and all that stuff. Then you had the blood splatter analysis, and that came from step 23 from what you were doing yesterday. And that's just, pretty much talking about the blood splatter and the height and all of that other stuff. So what I also kind of explained to them was on that data that was provided for you. So it talks about like blood splatter and all of that other stuff, and you see the pictures of the blood. So you see like at some area like the blood was more closer together, but then as like in other areas of the crime scene like they were more dispersed. So what you would call this is the diameter. So all of these so each blood splatter has its own diameter based off the height, and we found that to be in our results. So in the prediction, they predicted that Anna fell from a height of about 160 centimeters. So we went down to the data, and you see 160 centimeters mean that the average diameter of blood would be about 20. We didn't quite see that in these results, so that means that she might have not been as high up as we're thinking. So if you look at this, the higher in height you are, the bigger the diameter is of the blood splatter. So if you just picture that in your head and think about if you're really high up and somebody hits you from the back of your head or you fall or something, your blood can splatter a lot further than it would if you were on the ground because it can go further away. So that's probably why you saw some blood on the table, but some was also on the floor. But it also just depends on back to the thing of how did she end up dying. So we still don't know that part yet, but we do know that it's blood. We don't know whose blood it is exactly, but we do know that it is blood in the lab, on the table and on the floor, and that the splatter shows that it didn't originally start at the ground level. So apparently, so at one point she was standing up, and then she fell down, and that's why the blood splatter is not the same diameter all the way around. And then that was just pretty much that, just making sure you wrap it up because you have to turn in this part today. So like I said, you can just combine this experimental design form, that Microsoft document. You can just take screenshots of that or take a picture of it and just upload it into your notebook area as well, and just have it experimental design. And then just make sure you have that electronic case file link, and making sure that that link is shareable so that I can see it. And that's going to be the main thing. This link has to be shareable. You have to make it so that anybody with a Charlotte-Mecklenburg school address can open it up, because if not, I have to request access, and I don't know if you see that. If you don't do it immediately, I think it kind of goes away. So we just have to be mindful of that when we are doing that. And that was pretty much it.